All right, here we go. Welcome, everyone, to Open Line. Glad you're with us. I'm just getting ready. Look, I'm just getting ready here. We are back live. So it is the Tuesday, August 10th, and I'm glad you are with us. Tonight, we're talking about caring for a loved one who is aging. It's a show we do often, but we always get good calls and appreciate to hear individual stories so that we can all learn from them. We're talking about elder law. Very happy to have with us via Zoom. Our guests are going back to Zoom. We're going to go to Zoom for a bit. Via Zoom, Chris Johnson. He is elder law attorney with Takacs McGinnis, joining us from his office there in Hendersonville. Chris, thank you very much for being with us.
Ben, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, Chris, first of all, I'd like to start with, how do you define elder law? So when we're talking about elder law and you're going to give advice and that kind of thing, what is elder law?
Elder law, Ben, is the crossroads of people's legal, financial, and personal needs, and it's where all of those items intersect, understanding the interplay and the dynamics between all of them, and making sure that they have a comprehensive plan moving forward to give them that financial security, to give them that personal security that they're going to be taken care of, and that they're going to be taken care of and not run out of funds, and make sure that all of those things are coordinated so they work together and give not only the client but also their families the peace of mind that they are searching for.
You're looking for peace of mind. This is a tough situation for a lot of people. So I'm interested. Your clients, some of them are the individuals themselves who are getting older and want advice on how to kind of plan for that financially and otherwise. Sometimes your client could be a son or daughter whose parents are aging and getting older, and what do they need to be doing? Is that right?
That's right. The person who we're drafting the documents for and the person who we're setting up the plan for, they'll always be considered the client. It is very often that we will have the adult children accompany their parents and kind of prod them sometimes for parents who have kind of put it off. We always joke it's an easy thing to put off because people don't want to think about these things sometimes. The problem is one of the worst things you can do regarding your financial security, regarding your health, regarding all of these things is to ignore this and do nothing. And so we'll have meetings with adult children, we'll have meetings with the parents, we'll have meetings sometimes with the whole family together. And what we want to do is get to the bottom of what the worries are, what the goals are, and then we want to mitigate those worries as best we can, and we want to give them a comprehensive plan so they feel good moving forward.
Now let's pull back the curtain a bit. So when you sit down with a client, what determines whether or not you take a case? So you all have someone walk in and, what determines whether or not you take the case?
That's a fantastic question, Ben. There are a lot of different factors. From an attorney's perspective, you have ethical obligations. One, it sounds like commonsensical, but you need to have time to give them the appropriate time for representation. You need to make sure that you're not taking on too many clients. B, you need to make sure that you have the expertise in the field. Every once in a while, someone comes in and they're looking for something or asking for something that might just be outside the scope of our representation. We keep a very narrow focus and then try and be 2 miles deep on that narrow focus. And then sometimes you can have ethical conflicts where perhaps you've represented someone who would have a conflicting position than the person looking to seek your representation. At that point, it's difficult because you can't really disclose that. You just have to politely say there's a conflict and we're going to be unable to move forward with you. So there are lots of things, lots of factors to take into account on whether or not representation is appropriate, and we try and do our best on everything.
Very interesting. And now I want to get to some specific questions regarding, I guess, elder law. So let's say you have a loved one, maybe it's parents, they live out of state, they live in Vermont, okay? And it's clear that one of them is in decline cognitively. Maybe, I don't know if it's Alzheimer's or not, but they're declining cognitively. One is asking for help. Let's say the husband's declining cognitively, the wife is asking for help. You're, as their kid, down here in Nashville, and they're up in Vermont. How do you handle that? What would you recommend to that person who is hearing from, their parents that things aren't going so well here, the mom, the dad's in denial, what do you do?
It's a great question, and there are some ethical issues there. There are some difficulties because the client in this case would be the parents, and they are out of state, and we cannot represent them while they're domiciled out of state, while they're living in another state. So what we often do is if the children are coming in seeking information, we'll sit down with them and kind of have an abbreviated meeting and say, here are the things to be on the lookout for. Here are the concerns. If they're going to end up staying in that state, we'll try and give them a good referral to an attorney in that state who practices in the elder law world that has a very good reputation, because we always want to vector them in the right direction. And if we can set them up with a person who we know is an expertise, we're certainly going to do our very best to do so. And then we'll also say, listen, if they do move down here and become residents of the state, let's get you in as quickly as possible when that happens. And here's some information you can be gathering that'll make the next first meeting much more productive in that interim process. But we always want to try our best to put someone in a better position than they were when they reached out to us. And so at a minimum, we'll chat with those adult children and say, hey, here are the things to be looking for, but we cannot do representation for someone out of the state.
All right, so that's interesting. So you couldn't represent them out of state. Let's say it's in state. I mean, let's say it's in Tennessee, but pretty far away. It's a big state. They live 2 hours away. Again, the husband is in decline cognitively, is in denial about it. The wife is there with him and doesn't know what to do and is calling her, kids for help. What should she do? Who are the people you call? What do you do in that situation?
Well, so you have laid out one of the most difficult situations in the elder law world, and that is someone who is struggling with a cognitive decline and not really facing it. And that happens every single day, and it's very, very hard. So in a case like that, the mother, we'd be happy to sit down and meet with her and talk about some estate planning items we can do. If her husband wants to come along and participate, we would absolutely love to have him. We can certainly convey all the information to her. There is some point where we need to discuss what their options were. Now, the first thing you want to do is advocate for why this is a good idea and the positives that can come along, and maybe try and persuade the husband, who still, it sounds like in this scenario, has capacity. He knows he has a diagnosis, but he is not so far gone that he truly cannot make decisions. And the goal is to try and capture that important time where they still understand what's happening, where they can still make legal decisions, and get them in the best position possible. And if you've lost that window of opportunity, then what you're really looking at is a conservatorship. And that's where you ask the state, you petition the court to essentially strip that individual's rights because they're making such poor decisions that they're going to harm themselves or harm someone else, either physically or certainly themselves financially. And you're telling the court, we have no other options. This is the only thing we can do to prevent this individual from hurting themselves. They simply lack the capacity to manage their own affairs.
Wow, that's a tough situation. But yeah, I appreciate you answering that. And I encourage people to call in with their stories, whatever they may be. Another issue is saving for a nursing home, right? Like how do you pay for that? If that is something that is needed, it's so expensive, and the numbers are mind-boggling what it comes to a month. How do you start planning for that? How much is it, first of all, as far as the latest numbers, and how do you start planning for that?
So the latest numbers, Ben, they are staggering. It can run upwards of $8,000 to $10,000 a month, which means six figures, over the possibility of over $100,000 a year. And that number is a real sticker shock to a lot of families. So when you start real early in the planning, and I'm talking about people that are your and my age, you look at long-term care insurance. And so there are different plans that are out there. There's the straight long-term care insurance, 3-year, 5-year plans. They don't really offer the lifetime lifetime plans anymore. Now there are hybrid insurance things where you can have a life insurance policy with a long-term care insurance rider, where if you need to tap into it during your lifetime, you can, and then obviously the life insurance payout is reduced by that amount. That's in the real earliest stages. Then when you start getting to retirement age, you're looking at asset protection. So I'm looking at what can I do with the home, typically people's largest asset. Can I place it into an irrevocable trust and start a 5-year look-back clock and get that asset protected? And then as far as the liquid assets, then you say, okay, what is going to best serve these clients? So there's different trust strategies that we can do and looking at how we want to structure things. One of the big mistakes people make are they say, well, I'm just going to give everything to my children. And that'll solve everything. And what they don't realize is they're not mitigating the risk. In good estate planning, good elder law world, what you are trying to do is you're trying to mitigate the risk from these financial catastrophes. And if you just take your assets and put them in the name of your children, you haven't mitigated the risk, you've shifted it. And a lot of people would argue you've increased it because you were initially concerned about tin care. Now you're worried about if you give it to your children, what if they get a divorce? What if they file for bankruptcy? What if they get into an accident and are sued in a personal injury suit? There are so many bad things that can befall them, and all you have done is taken your retirement and taken your nest egg and put it in the hands of someone who generally day to day assumes a lot more risk than you. And so that is one of the big pitfalls out there, and one of the big misconceptions is that's a great way of planning.
Yeah, Tim Takacs always talks about that. Don't just give it to your kids. Not a good idea. It's a dangerous thing to do. That's what, I remember him coming on saying that. All right, let's go to a couple calls. And I appreciate when we do get calls. Appreciate if people share their situation. Alfred is on the line. Alfred, are you there? Oh, no, I might not be able to hear you that well. Are you there? Is this Alfred?
Hello there, yes.
Ah, there we go. Alfred, go right ahead.
I've got a question about hospice in-home care. When you have an issue with, like, say, a bathroom, when you have an issue with a bathroom and you try to get help from Medicare to pay for it, where do you go if they don't help you pay for it? I mean, is there programs that can help you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand that question?
I do. And that's a great question, Alfred. And it is tough.
Can you explain what the question is? What does he mean?
Yeah, so hospice care, let's start by breaking down hospice care. Hospice care is end-of-life care. When you have switched over to hospice care, most likely you have switched from treating the underlying disease to what we call comfort care or palliative care, where we're just trying to keep the individual pain-free and as comfortable as possible. The idea at this point is that whatever condition they're suffering from is beyond curing at this point. They have a terminal diagnosis, and it's tough care. And there are a lot of wonderful, wonderful people out there who provide hospice care to our community every single day, and they truly do amazing work because it's hard. It is emotionally taxing and draining, and that's what he's asking about is if he has a loved one or is being provided hospice care at home. Sometimes, as you decline, it is harder and harder to do things. And so you need medically adaptive equipment to, perhaps be able to use the bathroom or take a shower, such things like that. And if Medicare doesn't cover it, where do you turn to? I think one of the first things you do is look at appealing it and see if you can get them to reconsider the decision. You can always look at charities and other organizations that work in this realm. The odds are you will find someone out there to do it, but I would re-engage with Medicare, and I'd want to run that back with them and get an understanding. Why are they saying no? What else can we do? And can they provide you any alternatives? And then I would look to community organizations in the community that provide services such as this, where you say, listen, we have a need. We don't have the financial means to do this. And that's how I would attack it.
Okay. All right, Alfred, thank you. Thank you for your call. Good question. Let's go to George. Hello, George? It might help if everybody turns down your TV, and then when we come to you, you'll be ready. Are you there, George?
I'm here.
Great, go right ahead. So I just heard that again. Go right ahead, George.
Now, you want me to turn my TV down?
Yes, yes, I do.
All right, wait a minute.
Okay.
All right, it's down.
Oh, great. All right, George, what is your question?
Got a unique one. I'm 81. Have never drawn unemployment. Have never had a week's vacation, ever. And I will be the most honest person you'll ever talk to in your life. I have nothing to deny. Here's my dilemma. I just signed off $20 to $40 million lawsuit because it's not funny to me because I'm 100% disabled now. I called 7 lawyers and not one of them would talk to me. I got tripped at Home Depot. I did not fall, I was tripped. I'm a general contractor for 47 years, my family for 216 in this country. I'm not begging for anything. I'm asking, is there, and this particular company, and I'm not going to name names, I'm smarter than that, just barely. I don't want to, whatever.
Okay.
That offered me $2,000 to help me pay my bills, and I did. And I signed papers saying I'd accept it. Well, what it is, I've never sued anybody in my life for anything. I've always settled things.
Right.
To my dilemma.
You're saying you're 81 years old and you were tripped in a store.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me...
Outside the store.
All right.
In front of it, in the walkway.
All right, let's talk about this. Now, I feel like... Oh, no, we almost lost Chris Johnson. Okay, there's Chris. All right, Chris, I don't feel like this is elder law. Now, clearly, he's 81 years old, and so that's why I'll put the question to you. So here is someone who is 81 who is saying he wants to sue a place where he fell, was tripped. Now, there's a whole nother layer. It sounds like he signed something here. I don't know. What are your thoughts on what you're hearing here?
Yes. So first, Ben, I think your assessment is correct. It's outside the elder law realm, and so I'm going to be just very bland on my response with this. The things that I am hearing, one, you just want a preservation of evidence. If it's outside a store and they have security cameras, you would, if you have been tripped, you want to get that footage and get it preserved so you can prove that you were purposefully assaulted. And so that would be a key element of things. And then you want to get yourself set up with a reputable personal injury attorney. And there are many very reputable personal injury attorneys. And then you want to explain what your damages are, what the injuries have been, have them assess the case and provide you some insight on what you can do. When I hear that you have signed off on something and received a $2,000 check, it does give me pause that might have been some type of settlement, and that I don't know if you read all the paperwork or not, George, associated with that, but that certainly, as an attorney, I hear that and have pause. And so what you need to do is reach out, do a little research, find a reputable personal injury attorney in your area, so you can set up a consultation, have a sit down with them, and have them give you a frank assessment and evaluation of your claim, and get an understanding if there's really any opportunity for success moving forward. Personal injury stuff is well outside the lane we do, and I apologize, I can't give you more than that, but that would be the right thing to do. And I would worry about the preservation of evidence, and I would worry about any documents you've signed, and I certainly would bring copies of those to any meeting you set up.
All right, that's good advice for George. And just because someone is 81 years old doesn't mean anytime they need help with the law that it's elder law. And so I'll close this segment the way I began it with asking you a quick definition. Again, what we're talking about is preparing for the financial burdens associated with aging, whether it's nursing home, whether it's whatever. But just so we don't get off on a track, again, the definition of what we're talking about when we talk about elder law in a couple of sentences is what?
It is the intersection of your legal, personal, and financial needs over time, dealing with the upcoming possibility of long-term care costs and making sure that that doesn't become a catastrophic event in your life.
So it's different than what we just personal injury type stuff. All right. Well, Chris,
very different.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a break. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. So we'll take a break. Be back right after this.